In a time full of war, be peace. In a time full of
Greetings, Your Excellencies. I am Precious Osinaku, and I'm your host for the Peacemakers Hub. I trust our week has been beautiful, and we've also been appreciating ourselves. The fact that we woke up, that we chose to show up, or contemplating even making a decision shows we are putting in the effort. And please appreciate yourself. Genuine appreciation for people only means we've also learned to appreciate ourselves, because you cannot give what you do not have. So please appreciate yourself. Learn to appreciate yourself. General Avero Obregon lived by this philosophy. He said, "Do not be afraid of enemies who attack you. Be afraid rather of friends who flatter you." This is because appreciation is very different from flattery. One is sincere. Appreciation is definitely sincere. Flattery is not. One is selfish. The other is unselfish. One is from the heart. The other is from the teeth out. One is based on truth. The other is based on lies. This is because if you look for the good in a man, you will definitely find it. So let's spread this culture, the appreciation culture. Today, we're going to continue on what we started last week about breakups in friendship. And I have with me Idowu Adeyemi. Thank you so much, Heidi, for joining us in this conversation.
Hi, Heidi. Oh,
Hello,
Idowu rather.
Precious.
It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you too.
Yeah, thank you for honoring our invite to continue this conversation on breakups in friendship.
It is always a pleasure having a conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too.
So, guys, if you're just joining us, we started this very interesting conversation on breakups in friendship. And today we're continuing. We started with Idowu Adeyemi, and today we're continuing with him. And yeah, we're just going to continue our conversation. So last week, Idowu said, he said quite a number of interesting things. So he shared personal examples with also personal stories as to how he's had to, cut off from certain relationships or friendship in that sense on the basis of trust, dishonesty, being taken advantage of, and not being remorseful about those situations. And he also shared an interesting story of how somebody also ended a friendship with him on the basis of that the friendship has outlived
its relevance.
that the friendship has outlived its purpose. And I'm just going to while I was thinking of that story you shared with me, a similar story came to mind. This is my own story. Let me share a bit, and then I'll ask you a question. So I had this friend. I was in the boarding house when I was in secondary school, and for my set, we were quite we're close. We're tight knit in that sense, or I thought we were tight knit. We grew up together. I mean, I've known these girls since I was in GS1 when I barely knew anything, and we grew like that. And
that's a long time.
Exactly. So when we finished secondary school and everybody, went home and all that stuff, and then of course I got admission to the University of Ibadan. I went to the University of Ibadan, and then I found out a year later, one of my classmates in secondary school joined me in the University of Ibadan. So when I got news, or when I knew that she was a student of my school, I was really excited. Wow! And then I remember going to see her in her hall. Do you understand?
Are you serious?
I actually went to visit her in her hall, and we're having a conversation. And she said, I went to see her, and trying to start off from where we stopped while we're in secondary school. And then I remember she also came to see me.
Okay.
But I think after the two visits, the both of us didn't make an attempt to continue visiting each other, and somehow the relationship just it fell. We just maybe we started, maybe if I just see her around maybe in the faculty or around school or something, I'll just say hello, hi, and that was just about what we had until we just stopped talking. But later I was thinking of it, or now that I'm much older and more, I mean, I've grown, I've learned a lot of things, I've learned more about life. I was thinking, would this same thing, or would that have happened to me now with what I know? Would this have reoccurred with what I know? You know, that's like what I mean, I've actually thought of it. I have my answer, but let me keep it aside. So my question to you now is, do you think we outgrow each other? Like, do you think people outgrow each other in a friendship? Do you think people, last week we started by defining who friends are, or who we call friends. So do you think we outgrow each other in friendship?
Yeah, well, this is interesting. I think we touched a little bit on this question last week, and I was saying something about it's not essentially that people outgrow themselves in friendship. Sometimes it's just that there's a variation in ideology. You know, people's perceptions stop aligning. People don't see themselves the way they used to see each other before. You know, as we grow, our circle can change, our worldview can change, our opinion about certain things can change. And once all of that starts happening, if the friends that you used to have, if they are not, if they don't fall into this new system of growth that you are falling into, it might be difficult for you to keep up with that kind of friendship, or it might be difficult for them to keep up with you as a friend. But looking at the story you just cited now, the story you just shared, I would say that I'm not sure if it is essentially that in this context that people outgrow themselves in relationship. I think it's because maybe both parties did not do the work. You know, I think friendship is a business of two people being committed to the relationship. You know, you bring your all to the table, and I bring my all to the table. And if we are not doing that for each other, or if one person is doing more than the other, you know, there could be a problem. So within the context of this story, I think, well, you stopped checking up at some point, and she didn't give me fit to check up too, you know.
I think about the checking up. I think what happened then was the fact I just thought we've become different people. Okay. Yeah, I thought we've become different people. And I just wasn't, I personally at the time, I just wasn't enjoying that conversation anymore. Do you understand? So I'm like, so I didn't see the need to, okay, why would I go to have to go to sit down
what
and
are we
have
going
some
to talk
conversations? Exactly, that kind of thing.
That kind of thinking would fall into my initial definition of, at some point your perception is just aligned, you know. Things have really changed, you know, different worldview, different perception, different attitude to life, you know, different kind of conversation, and you've probably met different circle of people. And for you to feel like that relationship, what is the reason for checking up anyway? You might not have been entirely right about just, you know, throwing the friendship overboard by saying that, but I'm saying that you are probably not wrong, essentially, for you to have been thinking that way. I mean, you just said that now that you know better, you probably would have, you know, taken steps to, you know, to maybe do things differently, because, I mean, people don't always have to agree with you about the way you see things, you know. And like you said last week, people are different and they have a right to be different.
Exactly.
So it is important for us to be able to respect each other's individuality in friendship. And I think that, for me, is one of the most difficult aspects of being a friend.
Exactly.
Being friends with somebody,
Very
that
true.
respect of individuality, because it is often the inability to acknowledge this that often lead to clashes. A lot of time. Say you have a friend who is an introverted person, and you happen to be the happy-go-lucky guy, you know, the average party guy, the extrovert, basically. You know, sometimes communication can be very difficult with you people, because you know the way some people are, they can like sit in their space for, I don't know, a truckload of years, and things are happening and they are just not saying anything to you. And the truth of the matter is, it doesn't mean that they're upset. It doesn't mean that they hold anything against you, you know. But because there's a break in communication, instead of you to ask, like, guy, what is going on? You've been appearing to be distant for a while now. And instead of you to do that, you just begin to interpret the actions in your head, you know. I think he's snobbish. I think he's becoming proud now. I think he has something against me. It's the difficulty. And someone thinking like that does not also mean that you're a bad person. It is natural to think like that, but you have to be able to bring yourself to that level of consciousness and understanding to respect the nature of other people, to respect the individuality of other people. That people keep quiet not because they are always thinking about you. I mean, you are not that a big deal anyway.
Exactly.
So
The world does
you,
not revolve around you.
the world does not revolve around you. So you need to calm down once in a while and try to
Yeah.
understand how people do their things. Of course, in all of this, there will always be clashes. It is
Mm.
natural for there to be friction. It could even be the friction could even be as a result of this variation in individuality. You want this person to say something, or this person does not like the way you say some things, and the friction could come from there. But I think the most important thing for me is that however difficult the conversation is, let us always find a way to have it. That's what I think is like the bedrock of every friendship. The moment you start trying to sidestep a subject, like, oh, maybe you are trying to avoid confrontation. There are people like that. They avoid confrontation. They just want things to appear all peaceful. Oh no, I'm just not going to. The moment you begin to sidestep important issues that you ought to talk about in friendship, so it's going to become a problem. So I'm essentially saying that, looking at the context of your story, I don't think either of you or your friend is the bad person. I think
Yeah.
with more information, with more maturity, and with more exposure, you both would have
Exactly.
done things differently. But I think it is entirely possible for
I
people
think
to for people to lose track of friendship like that. Every once in a while, it happens.
I think so too. I think so too, because I mean now I told you I withheld my answer. Like
Yeah.
now that I'm much old, not necessarily older because of age, but in
Mhm.
terms of life. I mean,
Experience,
I've
understanding.
learned. Yeah, my understanding has widened and broadened. So now that
Yeah.
I am all of this, or what I am right now, I
Mhm.
don't think that relationship would have gone down the way it did. Do you understand? Just like we
Yeah.
have said here, I mean, understanding the human nature. I mean,
Yeah.
we must understand that people are different and they
Mhm.
have a right to be different, and that my
Absolutely.
understanding or my attitude to my fellow man is dependent on my
Mhm.
understanding of him. So I don't
True.
need to, you don't need to be me for me to
Yeah.
relate with you. Do you understand? So
True.
when I can understand that you are unique, you're special, and
Mhm.
you have a right to be that, and
Yeah.
it doesn't stop me from relating with you. I can relate with you. So I
Yeah.
think so though I didn't have that understanding at the time. I think I was just
Mhm.
about 16 or thereabouts. So I didn't have I didn't have that
You've grown
understanding
a
at the
lot from then, I
time.
beg.
I mean, I've grown. Exactly, I've grown. So I didn't have that understanding. And then, I mean,
Yeah.
you don't live beyond what you know. People can
True.
live beyond what they know. So I was just,
Yeah.
and I mean, I only expressed, I'm not even blaming her now, or the both
Yes.
of us just essentially expressed what we knew. We just lived
Mhm.
out who we were at the time. But now
Yeah.
that I'm a better person, now that I've
Mhm.
learned more, I don't think that relationship would have ended that way.
Ended the way it did. Yeah.
Exactly. It shouldn't have. I mean, we wouldn't have gone that way. So are you saying, I want to hear your word for it. Okay, no, I think you've said a lot of things about maybe change in perception and all that stuff,
Yeah.
can, in that sense, make people, what's the word
Outgrow each
now?
other.
Outgrow each other. But do
Yeah.
you think, are you going to use the word outgrow? I just want you to
Yeah.
put like some final thoughts to it. That
That
do
that's
you think
I
a
think
change in
I think that's
perception?
yeah. I think that's what I meant by saying that. Yeah, maybe a change in perception could actually make you, see things differently. But I'm very careful with the word outgrow, because that could that could suggest that the other person is not growing, and that may not be totally correct, especially within the context of whatever the person is going through that you may not even know. You understand? So I'm trying to be careful to use that word outgrow in the context of friendship. But I do think that there could be variation in the way you people see things. There could be variation in the way your worldview now is per time. There could even be change in social status, like I tried to reference last week. A lot of things could change, and that could mean that if for one reason or the other, either of the party is, not willing to come on board, or there is no space for understanding between the two friends, there could be friction, and then things can possibly go south from there. But yeah, it's possible.
Okay, I like your caution. I like your caution because it suggests that, particularly when you try using the word understanding,
Yeah.
that because we must be clear enough to say or know that people are different, and you can't force anybody to be who they don't want to be. Do you understand? People are different and they have a right to be different. You must be clear on that. So I think the issue, like you're trying to say, will then border on understanding. Can the both of us understand each other? Can I try to understand you? Can I respect your individuality and still work with you and still,
that's the reason why I'm very careful with the word outgrow. Because growth for us is different. And that's another thing we have to understand. Growth for us is different. What is growth for you may not be growth for another person. You may be looking at growth in terms of your career pursuit, in terms of maybe changing social status. You want to get better at these things. And there are some people, they just seem to be so content with the way they are, with the place they are. And you're like, hey man, don't you have any motivation to do better for yourself? And they're like, you know what?
This is just what I want to do.
And this is just what I want to do at this particular stage of my life. This is where I am. And I'm not in a rush to get ahead of things. And if you find it difficult to understand that, it's possible that somebody might begin to think that, oh, you have probably outgrown that person because the person is not, coming up to the level, or the person is not as, should I say, as motivated as you are, or as, there's a word I'm trying to look for now, but the word is quite kind of running away from me. But I'm sure you get a picture of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I'm understanding you.
The person is not as driven as you. I think that's the word I wanted to use. You said because the person is not as driven at you towards certain things, towards certain goals, towards certain values, you have outgrown them. I don't think that may be very correct.
True. Very true. I mean, there's no we all have a space cut out for us. So on what basis are you making the comparison that you have outgrown me or I have outgrown you? I have my space. I'm working on my own space. I'm working my journey out. I'm trying to work my journey out. You have your journey. You're trying to work it out. So I think, so you say you have, no, we're just on two different journeys. Do you understand? So I think the key thing is in us understanding, or you understanding me.
Yeah.
Me understanding you and giving you as much room to flourish in what you're doing, and you giving me as much room to flourish in what I'm doing. And
understanding basically just solves the problem.
Exactly. And that's why we cannot overemphasize this whole thing about understanding the human nature. It cannot be overemphasized.
No,
it cannot be. I mean, please, we can go back to listen to the previous episodes on this series. We started talking about, the human nature, how we are different, the different categorization, and how really, to be a better person, the largest room in the world is the room for improvement. And there's always room to be better. There's always room to be better. So, my next question to you, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on that. So my next question to you is, how then can we avoid losing friends? How then can we avoid losing friends? Yeah, we started last week with saying that one thing that is more important than making new friends is keeping old ones. But then we shared, you've shared experiences, you've shared stories of how people had to go away, or you've had to cut off certain relationships and all that. So I'm just asking you a question, how then can we ensure we avoid losing friends in that sense?
This is a bit a difficult question because honestly, I don't think that we can avoid losing friends. I think losing friends is probably a regular rite of passage in life, and I'll tell you why I think so. The first thing is this: understanding is a two-way street. If you make an effort to understand somebody and the person is not making effort to understand you, there's going to be a problem. That's number one. Number two, we said this last week, that you can't force yourself on somebody as a friend. If you're making effort to be somebody's friend and the person is not trying to be your friend as well, there is also going to be a problem. So in us asking ourselves if it is possible or how we as individuals can avoid losing friends, we will be overlooking the fact that friendship is a relationship of two people. And even the scripture says, as much as it lies within your power, be at peace with all men. I'm guessing the word of God is trying to tell you that sometimes it's entirely out of your power. Because really, there are people that you have been kind to, you have been nice to them, you have been a good friend, even in their own book, regardless of whatever they might think about you in other space, in their own book, you are a good person. But for some reason, that relationship is not just working. I'm not sure if you're getting the point I'm trying to make.
I understand what you're trying to say.
So I think it would be too much a responsibility on a person to say that I will make sure that I don't lose friends. I don't think it is an achievable dream, because in that way, you will be taking a lot than you ought to take, because you could be in a toxic friendship and in a bid to hold on to that ideology of not losing friends.
I've never lost a friend.
Oh, I will never lose a friend. You are going to stay in a toxic relationship, and that thing is going to drag you down physically, emotionally, psychologically. And before you know it, you are a shadow of yourself, all because you are trying to keep a friend. So I think losing friends as we grow, and when I say growth, it's not just in terms of age, in every area of our lives, I think losing friend is a regular rite of passage. What I do think we should be more conscious of is that we should not be the reason why a friendship is ending.
Oh.
And that is where I think the scripture comes in again. As much as it lies within your power, do your best to be the good person to people. Do your best to be kind to people. Do your best to be empathetic. Don't be the reason why the friendship is ending. And in doing that, we also have to create a space for the acknowledgement of our humanity. And this acknowledgement of our humanity would include the fact that we are human beings, that we can make mistakes. So in you trying to not be the reason why a friendship is ending, you can offend your friend, even though you don't intend to. And if this person takes it too personal and they say, you know what, I don't care whether you're apologizing, I am done with you. Well, you have to find a way to live with that, accept that responsibility. You have to first of all come to terms with the fact that you did wrong. Okay.
True.
Acknowledge it, accept it, own up to it. And most importantly, find a way to forgive yourself if you ever find yourself in that space. Because the truth is, we are human. And sometimes, as much as you try to forgive people, people will not always show you the same courtesy. People will not. So, and this boils down to the whole idea of how human beings, how we vary. You understand? So I think that our consciousness, our focus should be how you will not be a reason why a friendship is ending. But should you ever find your human nature creeping in, with you making a mistake in a friendship, try as much as possible to own up to your faults, apologize as much as possible, and try to fix your wrong. And if you can't, so as a friend of mine would like to say, that may just be the end of the trip. But try as much as possible to be the reason why the friendship is ending. I think that's a more attainable goal.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I mean, I love all the perspectives you brought to this. I love the part about you acknowledging your humanity. There was a time I used to consciously take some confessions, confessions about myself and who I want to be and what I want to reflect and all that stuff. And, I would say things like, oh, Precious is kind, Precious is patient, Precious is, and so I don't know, somewhere in my mind, when I just say these things, I was just saying it as a way of, as in I'm kind to people, I'm loving, I am patient, all that stuff. And then, something happened to me, like at a time, and I was just almost I started feeling really terrible about that situation. And those words I usually would just say started coming. Precious is kind. And it just came to me that these words are also for you as much as they are for people. There's a tendency to want to, you want to be a good person, just like we have said here. You want to, I mean, as we have come, I mean, you should not be the reason why the relationship should end. But sometimes some of these things, you should also, I am also kind to myself. Kind enough to say, you know what, okay, I messed up. Kind enough to say, you know what, but I'm human. I messed up, but I'm human. Kind enough to say, and I'm also patient with myself. Patient enough to say, well, okay, I didn't live out properly. I didn't, I didn't do well, but patient enough to know that I need to learn. I mean, I should be patient with myself, give myself time to also learn. Like, not just being patient with people. It must start off with us, because you can't really give what you don't have. As in, I have to tell myself these things again, like assure and reaffirm to get out of that situation that no, I'm kind to myself. I'm patient with myself. I'm patient with me. I'm patient. I'm kind. I am, I kept saying those things, and I had to leave it out, telling myself, so I don't start feeling or going into some emotional whatever that I wasn't ready to. I didn't think I want to allow. I didn't want my mind to go through at the time. So I like all the perspectives you brought on that. I mean, as much as it lies within us, which is as much as it lies within us, the Bible says, as much as it lies within us, we should be at peace with all men. And as much as it lies within us, we shouldn't be the reasons why the friendship should end, because people are important, people are special. We should treat people with utmost importance, but then we should recognize our humanity. And once that happens, we should be ready. I mean, take responsibility, of course, and then forgive ourselves, work on ourselves. What happened? Why did this go sour? So, I mean, if there are things that needs to be, we need to change. We need to work on to be better people, to be better versions of ourselves. Just like we said, the largest room in the world is the room for improvement. And this whole concept of understanding the human nature, gaining mastery of it is something that we'll do for the rest of our lives. I think when we understand that gaining mastery of these things is something that we'll do for the rest of our lives, then we just know that we just have work to do, and we'll just keep putting in the effort. We just keep putting the effort until we get there. So thank you, Id. I mean, it was really interesting having this conversation with you again. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. So next week, I'll just bring in someone else who would also, we'll just try to draw a line, draw a curtain on our thoughts. Everything we've talked about in the past 2 weeks, we draw a curtain on it. I'm going to be bringing Ambassador Shegun Ogoni on board to just draw a curtain on a lot of things we've highlighted.
I am looking forward.
So it's going to be very interesting. We at the bottom of we spoke about a lot of things. We've spoken about a lot of things, rather. We said so many things, but I just want him to come in to, draw a curtain on this conversation. That is this whole conversation on breakups in friendship. Because like we said, we're doing this. It's a bigger picture of understanding the human nature. So we just, a subset of it. We just decided to talk about this, but in the big picture is for us to understand ourselves better, because we know, or I know, that my attitude to my fellow man is dependent on my understanding of him. And then, of course, we are peace builders. We believe in building peace, creating harmony, sustaining relationships. Because, the world would be a better place if these things, when people know these things.
Make it a better place.
Yes, because knowledge empowers. Knowledge empowers. Knowledge empowers. So thank you so much, Id, for having us. I'm grateful that you showed up today. Yeah, bye. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.
Mediation Training Institute is registered in Nigeria with a vision to create a new African order where peace and harmonious coexistence will thrive, where divisive national frontiers and the burden of military spending and man-studied inhumanity to man will be things of the past. We do this by providing requisite skills and resources for managing differences, for promoting peace and harmonious coexistence at home, at work, and in the society at large, through conflict management and mediation skills training, and the promotion of mediation and other non-adversarial methods of dispute resolution in private and public sector practice. For enquiries, you can call 091 563 11242 or 080 3111 5115, or you can visit our social media pages, Mediation Training Institute, Facebook and LinkedIn at Mediation MTI, Twitter at MTI Nigeria, Instagram. Mediation Training Institute, building peace, creating harmony, sustaining relationships.